What's going on, everybody? I'm making this video because I wanted to talk about two extremely rare grails in the video game marketplace that not many people have laid their eyes on. Actual real originals. They are Wizard Games Halloween and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. They came out in 1983 for the Atari 2600, right at the collapse of the video game market in general. And they had that going against them, and they had basically no advertisement, and lastly they had the fact that these were killing games, and that was a big no-go back then, as people pressed congressmen to push legislation to block sales of these type of games, because in their minds all video games are directed at children, and this is before the ratings system, teens and adults and whatnot. So a lot of major retailers said, hey, look, we're not going to sell this game. In this book right here, this magazine that came out from Full Moon, which is also owned by Charles Band, who also owned Wizard Games, that put these out. I recommend you pick this up. You can get it on eBay. This is the magazine. Issue 3. On pages 18, 19, and 20, they take a deep dive in the history of these two video games. And basically, they're quoted in there as saying they believe only 1,000 to 2,000 of these were ever sold to market. Like I said, retail markets shunned them. They did have a few mom and pops agree to take on the sales of these, but even they reneged, and instead of putting it out on the shelves, they hid it behind the counter. So when the customer walked in, if they never heard of it, how would they know to ask for it, right? So I also know that there was a convention in Chicago, also put on by Full Moon, and they had a panel, and they were talking, I think it was the anniversary of the 1974 Chainsaw release, and a question from the audience asked about the games, and they said at that time that they thought only 1,000 of this game got out. So I would assume this one, which came out later, is basically the same. But if you ask me, based on my research, I would say there's only about 5 to 10 complete in box available, each of these. And I would lean towards 5, being closer to 5 than 10. I know of two other one of these out there, plus a prototype, and the prototype's just an empty box. And then I know of 2 of these, and a prototype that has the funky cartridge and a weird looking instruction brochure that's not even a manual. But anyway, these are extremely rare. Actually, they belong in like a Smithsonian. Did you know the Texas Chainsaw Massacre's original reel is in the Smithsonian? How about that, huh? But as far as their place in history, they are basically the first survival horror games. In fact, this was the first game that ever put you in the shoes of the antagonist, Leatherface, you know, the killer. No other game had ever done that up until this point, 1983. So that was a history maker. Basically, in this game, you can watch videos on it, and you're Leatherface, and you're running around a pasture chasing maidens, and you're trying to grind them up with your chainsaw. You get three tanks of gas. There's a countdown, and when you run out of gas after the 3rd time, the game's over, and one of the mains come and kicks you off the screen. It's kind of funny. It has a great intro, kind of reminiscent of the actual movie. I like that. And then Halloween really pushed the envelope. You are the babysitter, Laurie Strode, and you're trying to save the children from a 2-story house, and Michael shows up everywhere and anywhere. And if he gets to the babysitter, he'll decapitate her and blood will be gushing out. And the same thing, if he catches up to one of the kids, he will stab him and blood will be gushing out. So, yeah, maybe parents back then did have a gripe, but these really didn't ever have a fighting chance in the video game market, but they are really amazing. Charles Band put them out. He was ahead of his time. Like, he made a lot of money in the video game. I mean, in the video rental and video distribution for VHS, Laserdisc, and whatnot. And he went on to also make a lot of money producing films, which he still does today. But back in '82, he saw his two sons. I believe he has two sons. And how absorbed they were into the video games, and he knew that the market was huge, and owning two major properties of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Halloween, he's like, well, shoot, I own the rights for distribution, so I'm going to go ahead and outsource these and make these games. So he stood up Wizard Video Games, and they folded within a year in 1983. There was a third game, it never even saw release, Flash Gordon. Kind of a porno take on Flash Gordon, but that would have been an interesting, gameplay for sure. But anyway, yeah, these games, they're just, I mean, let's take it into perspective, right? So I think there's about five, maybe 10 CIBs. How many Mario Kart 64s were sold? Like 10 million, right? We're looking at 1,000 of these ever hitting the market, right? Just put that into perspective. And are these rare, like the rarest? Yeah, they are, when you take into consideration they're not a promo, they're not a giveaway, they're not a convention handout. As far as retail, it doesn't really get any rarer than this. It's crazy. Not many people know about them. I'll post pictures of them and in groups, and they'll be like, "Oh, that's so cool! I never even knew that game existed." Yeah, I mean, it's awesome, and the gameplays aren't bad on each, especially for their time, and the graphics. What are you gonna do? 2600, right? But they held their own. They're pretty good. One thing I wouldn't do with these, though, I wouldn't when you research them. Don't go by pricecharting.com, because the problem with price charting usually is a good tool for most research, but not for these two, because they incorporate the reproduction sales into the sales figures, and that totally throws it out of whack. I know, watching these markets for a while now, the loose cart comes up on auction, and I started watching them about 6-7 years ago, and they were still hot back then, before this big video game boom. But the loose carts, I remember Texas Chainsaw Massacre about 6 years ago was selling for about $350. Now it commands about $750. These are loose carts, no manual, no box. It just blows my mind. The Halloween was about $400 back in 2013-14, and now it's pushing north of a $900 for a cart. But that's for the real ones. Like I said, there's repos out there, but it's kind of easy to tell which ones are real and stuff, and which ones are not. eBay has done a good job of blocking the reproduction sales lately, which I applaud. But yeah, this, let me show you something else here. I've got one more. And like I said, these are the only ones graded. And I know that because when I submitted them, oh, here it is. When I submitted them, just give me a second. Put that down. Here's my, wait a minute. Did I switch it the right one? Oh, no, I didn't. Sorry about that. I know that this is the, here's my signed copy. I know that these were the only ones ever graded because when I put in my order, my submission on Wata, there was no image that generated, no stock photo. And then once they cleared through the process, the grading, post-production, post-grading, and shipped out to me, then the images populated in their database. And that was the same thing that I witnessed. So I submitted these last spring. this year. But last year I submitted some Japanese games, like kind of obscure. Like I think it's the rarest retail Mario on 64. Mario no Photopie, only sold in Japan. It didn't populate, but as soon as I got my first order through, the image was there when I did a new submission, including that game. So I know these are the only ones. They came out just before the summer to me. There's not many out there, guys. If you can get your hands on one, by all means. I mean, you talk about grails. You see what some of the stuff these video games are going for. This blows these out of the water. I mean, let's be honest, right? Because, I mean, you can't say that the relevance and the pop culture isn't there. It is. Hell, you got Leatherface has probably made the most cross-platform appearances more than anybody else. If you think about it, outside his own franchise, he's been in Call of Duty, Mortal Kombat, Grand Theft Auto, Dead by Daylight. He's got his own game coming out here. Michael's got his own game coming. I mean, it's just crazy, you know. I really like this piece. This is the only one in the world. That one I had up there, that NS non-seal, that's the only one in the world. You'll never see another sealed one. You won't see a sealed one of these either. But I've got it, and this is the only one signed. Now, there is a loose card out there signed by Gunner. I should have grabbed it when I had a chance. But this is the only one that signed, the box is signed by Gunner, and the only one signed by the final girl, Sally, who was played by Marlon Burns. I talked to the actor that played Grandpa, Mr. Dugan, and he's like, yeah, this is the only one ever signed that he's ever signed. He knows it's the only one, and he said that it's worth a lot of money, and don't just sell it. It's worth a premium, and I don't think I will sell this one. I'll probably give it to my son, but the other ones, yeah, maybe. But yeah, that's all I got to say about these two wonderful games. I mean, they're awesome. They're just, you just don't see them, you know. And as you see, I got it authenticated by JSA, and they noted it on there, which is really cool, and I'm appreciative of it. I thought about getting this one signed, but I was just so excited to get it graded that I was like, to hell with it, because it would take years for me to collect a lot of the signatures I'd want to put on it. Especially with COVID and everything, it's hard for people. People don't go to these conventions like you'd think. But hey, leave your comments. Let's talk about it. You know, were you aware of these games? They are true grails. I mean, that's a word that's thrown around all the time, unfortunately. But in this case, it totally accurately applies. You just don't see them. You can forget about it. It's not going to happen. That's how rare they are. And that's why the loose carts are going for 800, 900 plus now. It's just crazy. But thanks for watching, and leave your comments. I'll respond. I don't see a lot of videos on YouTube concerning these games, only the gameplay. There's a bunch of people playing them, and sometimes they talk about the history and they talk over the gameplay. A lot of times they're just goofing around, making jokes, having a conversation with their buddies, and having a good time. So I thought I'd put a video out showing the real games, and I just appreciate you guys watching. Thanks, take care, have a good one, bye.